So Trump has just purely given up on even trying to hide his fascism, and we're going full throttle here. Zoran Mamdani, he is a threat to Trump, of course, or rather, he's perceived as such, even though he is at best, a sockdem. But he's still the best they've got as far as progressive leaders that are actually able to influence America at this moment. I mean, there are others, of course, Elon Omar. Um, well, previously it used to be Bernie as well as AOC. Now Bernie is a bit too lived up for my taste. Of course, he's a very old man. He has been fighting the class warfare fight for a long while, but he has some horrid takes that, in my opinion, makes him less trustworthy than anyone else. Not to harp on too much about it, but given the recent what's his name, what's his face, the guy's name, the military guy from who is running as a progressive, and I think Bernie had him on. I can't remember his name, but you guys know him for sure. Previous military man, been to Iraq, killed children, the whole thing, whole 9 yards. As well as going back as a military contract on so he was not allowed in the army, but he said, I miss this shit too much. I miss the game. My weed is no longer dank enough. I need to go as a contractor. Uh, and Bernie's propping him up, along with others who are in the quote unquote progressive circle. But you know what? Fuck all that. Let's hear what they've got to say about Zoran and what Trump is trying to do about it.
Today, multiple outlets are reporting that Donald Trump is attempting to tip the scales of New York City's mayoral election by offering some of the candidates jobs in the administration in order to help Andrew Cuomo defeat Zohran Mamdani.
Oh, yeah. So this is straight up just illegal to do, anyways. But, we're kind of past the point of illegal with Trump. Nothing he does is legal, nor is it ever thought through or has like any bearing on anything ever. But he is let's just say he's not known for following the rules, right?
Ever since the 33-year-old Mamdani won the Democratic primary in June, the Fox News viewer, who is our president, has been taking a special interest in the New York City race.
If a communist gets elected to run New York,
Communist,
it can never be the
Communist.
same, but we have tremendous power at the White House to
Look, this fat orange fuck, he doesn't even know what a communist is. He has no idea about anything he's talking about. Like, Zoran, if you want to give him cred, he's like he says himself, democratic socialist. He's very much not that different to a Scandinavian sockdem. He's quite reasonable in that sense to the average American lib, and he's calling him a communist, which is interesting because Trump has no idea what communism is. He barely knows his fucking shoe from his elbow, but it's like it's such an obvious talking point, and no one's buying this. Like, Sauron is immensely popular, and just calling him a communist because he knows that's the big C word, big scary C word, it's never gonna work, and it just shows how goddamn dumb he is.
run places when we have to. You have a lot of crooked things going on in New York. We're going to straighten out New York. It's going to maybe
like
we're going to have to
UNFC,
straighten it out from Washington.
Now, the New York Times is reporting that advisors of Trump are trying to induce the current incumbent mayor, Eric Adams, to leave the race by dangling an administration job for him.
They're
Quote,
trying to buy
the talks
him
have
out,
also
basically.
involved finding a possible place in the administration for the Republican candidate, Curtis Lewa.
Which is interesting. Let's get I think this guy, I mean, they're always gonna try and buy him out, of course, and not Zoran, of course, but the this won't even like Adams. Adams is a puppet, and anyone who is capable of keeping him in his place of power, he would just dance to their tune, and they will have their hands so far up his ass he wouldn't. He could say anything. Like this man could take the most right wing stances and still claim himself as a Democrat. Not that the Democrats are left in the U.S., but uh, he he has this thing about him that it's like anything he says, it he thinks he sounds like he's always held that opinion, and this just blatantly shows how like I don't think he's gonna take it because it's too obvious. He's not gonna take this position unless he thinks he can actually like he unless he gets the impression that he won't be able to beat Cuomo. N- Neither of these will beat Zoran. Like they don't, no shot. But I don't think Adams is even. I'm not even sure he could beat Cuomo at this point. So if he takes this bait, it's the most obvious buyout ever. If he doesn't take the bait, he's just gonna lose. And given what I said about him, he has no moral compass. He has no guiding principles. He's just interested in power, like so many other Democrats. And this, no matter what he does here, it's a bad look.
Citing 3 people with knowledge of the discussions, the Times reports the goal would be to give former Governor Andrew Cuomo a better chance of defeating Mamdani in November's general election.
Yeah.
Political reports Adams has been offered a position at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, according to a person with direct knowledge of the offer, and that the mayor met with the president's team during his visit this Monday to Florida.
Makes him look dumb.
Spokesperson for the Eric Adams campaign said Mayor Adams has not met with Donald Trump. He is not dropping out of the race. But it would not be the first time Trump has used Adams to influence New York City politics, of course. You'll remember, shortly after taking office, Trump's Department of Justice dropped corruption charges against the mayor in exchange for Trump-favored immigration policies and cooperation from the mayor for them. That move prompted the resignation of over half a dozen prosecutors in both Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office and Main Justice, including the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District.
What do you mean we're not a
Joining me now to respond to all this news on a very busy day is the Democratic candidate for New York City Mayor, Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. It's good to have you here. Nice to meet you in person for the first time.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So what do you think about all this?
I think it's outrageous. And I think oftentimes in a race such as this, it's tempting to think of this solely in the question of how does this impact the race? But this is an affront to our city's democracy. This is an affront to the values that make so many of us proud to be Americans, that we could choose our own leaders, not that our leaders pick themselves or their friends. And we're seeing in this time when Donald Trump has taken snap from hungry New Yorkers, has passed legislation that would throw millions of New Yorkers off their health insurance, that we have Democrats in Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams working with this administration to try and subvert the will.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. They hold no real positions at all. These two can just they can be bought for it to say anything. It doesn't matter to them. This is just it's theater. It's a politic theater. Like they both suck the dick of Israel so hard wouldn't even know like when to stop. And the only one who's ever said anything like remotely, I mean, there's the famous interview with Zoran, or when he was on a panel and he said, "I'm gonna go to New York," and everyone else like, "I'm going to Israel. I'm going to Israel. I love Israel," and he just said, "No, I'm going to New York. I don't care about Israel." Uh, Now that is an actual position, like that's a moral decision he made there. Andrew Cuomo and Adams, they don't give a shit. I don't even think they actually care about Israel. They care about getting their APAC money. They don't give a shit about Israel, and they will say anything. They don't care if Israel murders babies. They don't care if Israel is an illegitimate piranha state. They've never cared, and that's always been the case with American politics. They play this up as if there's some fucking bright light in the world order. The thing is, the US has never not committed war crimes in its history, and it's almost impressive. So just look at Chile, look at Cuba, look at the global south in and of itself, like the economic and also direct interference from the US has set them back tremendously. All the upstart socialist states that were doing great before the US had to intervene because it was against the interest of capital to let them continue. Now, exploiting workers, that's something we like to do there apparently, and it's not even they don't even get to own their own natural resources anymore, or I'm not sure they ever did, because the moneyed interest has been there for so long from the West that it no matter what these Democrats say, they're always like, oh, we want peace, we want peace, we want peace, we want this, we want that. Okay, well, you'd have to start by just listing up the crimes that you've done thus far. So take just the CIA. Just the CIA should probably, like, they owe the rest of the world so much in, like, repairs for the horrible fucking cruelty they've inflicted upon people. The shock doctrine comes to mind. The like Guantanamo Bay, everything like that. All of those things were propped up by Democrats. Like Democrats, I mean, Republicans are worse. Don't get me wrong. They are for sure. Like with regards to domestic affairs, the Republicans are worse. There's no debating that. But as always, like anything, international politics in the US is bipartisan. It is always has been. And it's always guided by capital. And it's always paid for by capital. So the Democrats are bought out by big lobbyists as well as the Republicans. The Republicans take the money more, they might be more open about it, but Democrats take the money too, and they don't really care. So Zohran is a fresh wind, of course. He is openly anti-Israel, and what he's talking about here is that this is so blatantly a fascist and almost like dictatorial in a way. And yeah, enough of me yapping. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Of Democratic primary voters right here in New York City.
Is there a Democratic argument that there's some problem with this split field of 4 candidates that ends up with a person being the mayor of the city with 40% of the vote? Like, is there, because we have, we had the ranked choice voting in the primary, which I think is an important thing. You've now got this very weird situation where the next mayor might win 35, 40% of the vote. And there's a question about what that would mean for that mayor's representative ability in the city.
I don't think any of those questions are motivating Donald Trump. Or
that's fair.
Thinking about the actions that they take. And I think that if this was just a question of, am I going to face 3 candidates or 1 candidate, I wouldn't have concerns. I'm just as confident of beating Andrew Cuomo today as I was yesterday. My concern, however, is what these so-called leaders are willing to give up in the name of securing power.
Yeah, see,
that is why so many New Yorkers are turned off by our politics, because they see no relevance of their struggles in the conversations that are taking place.
There's reporting over the summer that there's a phone call between Donald Trump and Andrew Cuomo, previously undisclosed, reported by the Times August 6th, that Trump spoke about the race directly with Cuomo, an old associate and foil, according to 3 people briefed on the call who are not authorized to discuss it. Andrew Cuomo denies that they talked about the race. I mean, is your read on this situation that Trump is pulling for Cuomo?
Absolutely. And I think Trump is making that very clear, that this is his choice for mayor of New York City. It's Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. And he's willing to use every single tool and tactic at his disposal to try and assist Andrew Cuomo in that same pursuit. And what we're seeing right now is to offer and consider positions for two candidates in this race to try and make this one-on-one, it shows just how threatened he is by what our administration would be, which is a fulfillment of the thing that he ran on but has since betrayed, which is a promise of a more affordable life for Americans.
You know, for people that are watching this that consider themselves, you know, Democrats are sort of in the big tent, right? And say they're in the big anti-Trump coalition, okay? And you know, they've known Andrew Cuomo as a known quantity for a long time. And there's a feeling right now as they watch sort of Governor Pritzker in Illinois and Governor Newsom and, you know, mayors in Chicago and D.C. and Baltimore deal with this sort of Godzilla-like figure, right, who's sort of wreaking havoc all over the places, that we need someone who's strong, who's experienced, who can go toe-to-toe, who maybe is kind of a tough guy. And this Zohran Mamdani seems like a nice guy. You know, he seems charming. He's 33 years old. Like, do I think that's the guy that can go toe-to-toe with the threat that is Donald Trump, as opposed to Andrew Cuomo, who's really been around the block?
Why would they bend over? So they are I can't speak. God damn it. They are already bending over for him. Why would they ever challenge him? Jesus Christ. Like, what's this question?
Let's take the example.
I mean, it's a good layup for Zohran, for sure. I mean, I bet he's going to tell us why he's better. But I don't think anyone's under the illusion that either Adams or Cuomo would ever pick a fight with Trump. As granted, because he has given them the opportunity to win the race doing this shit.
Of California. When Donald Trump deployed the National Guard to California, one of the key ways in which they responded was working together with the mayor of LA, the governor of California, the attorney general, all coming together to file a lawsuit that a judge just yesterday found that deployment was illegal. Can you imagine Andrew Cuomo working with the attorney general of this state, whose endorsement I am proud to have, Tish James, the governor, Kathy Hochul, to work together to fight Donald Trump when he's spoken to Donald Trump more than he's spoken to Kathy Hochul over the course of this race? This is a man who believes in nothing other than his own power. And he spent so much of the primary saying he was best positioned to fight Donald Trump. He's now spending the general saying he's best positioned to work with Donald Trump. And New Yorkers want...
Again, they don't stand for anything. They just say the thing. They just say what they think their electorate wants to hear. Now, granted, they've never cared about anything. But this situation just puts it out in the open. It's so obvious.
A mayor who is accountable to them, not to someone in the White House.
So ghoulish. Look at that fucking ghoul.
Who is looking to rip up the very fabric of the city.
Being New York mayor, to me, strikes me as probably the hardest job in American politics after president. I mean, I really like, it's basically your job for everyone to hate you, essentially. You know that, right? No one's gonna be like, hey, buddy. Like, everyone's kind of pissed off all the time because it's New York City. It's New York City, right? Like, life is tough. Like, things are crowded, things are expensive. Like, there's a lot of reasons for that. But then on top of that, right? So it's a hard enough job in normal times. But I mean, as we're watching him threatening to send in the National Guard to Illinois, no respect for like the law as it stands. Like, you can't bound yourself within some confines of like, well, he won't do that because it's illegal. Like, no, how are you thinking about?
This is what I was talking about earlier. Nothing Trump does is legal. Like, just since the newest presidency, I couldn't count the amount of times he's lied to the public. He tells more lies than he tells truths. Like, every time he calls someone a name, or he makes up this goddamn thing about the election being rigged, or he's talking about, how anti-Semitic everyone is, la 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 la. Like, nothing he says has any substance. Like, it's the meme of the gazillion, trillion dollars he's taken in tariffs. The problem is he's not making money off tariffs. They are paying money to get stuff into the country. Like, the tariff is not for the exporter to pay, being another country than the US. It's for the importer to pay, and he has made no such money. Like, understand that everything he has said about, like, I made a gazillion trillion dollars, we have so much wealth, even if that was true, let's say it was true, okay? Even if that's true, where is that money? It's not going to public healthcare. It's not going to food safety. It's not going to childcare. It was going to be used for people who already own capital. It was never going to go to the American public. Anyways, it never has. That's the kind of the sad problem here as well. The Americans have such a huge cleft between the wealthy and the ones who just barely get by and the middle class. And that gap has always been there because the American public as an entity has never reaped the benefits of the horrible imperialism they have subjugated the world to. Now, even if they did make use of that money, even if the money was going to the American public, it would still be fucked up. But at least they would have made something out of it. But they insist on saying we need to do this, we need to be at war, we need to fund the military industrial complex. But they never reap any rewards from it. They're so cucked. And Trump could lie his ass off and say, I made all this money. All this money, I molest the money, I love the money. I've golfed all the money away. It's gone now. I don't know where it is. Where is it? I don't know. Ask Biden, Hunter Biden, laptop. So, even if he had made, say, half of that money, no American citizen would see the light of day of it. And they would still be like, that's my president. My president. He made us a lot of money. I don't know about all them Chinese feelers, but he made us money. He was taxing the Chinese. No, he didn't. He was taxing you. Okay? That's what he was doing. Now I'm writing it, I'm sorry.
About preparing for the job itself in terms of having this threat looming over it.
You have to prepare for the inevitability of Donald Trump to continue being Donald Trump. We cannot, as you've said, rely on any notion of the law or what is appropriate for how he will determine his course of actions. And I look at California as an example, such that we are ready here in New York City on January 1st with a plan of partnership across city and state government to be ready, whether it's for the deployment of the National Guard or it's for his attempt to pass legislation like the one he just did, which will take an axe to so much of what keeps so many New Yorkers afloat. And I think we've seen what New York City can gain if we have a mayor who is willing to collaborate with Donald Trump, which is not that much at all. We've had money directly taken out of bank accounts. We've had a 6-year-old public school student from Jackson Heights being deported. This is what we have when you want to work with Donald Trump. We've seen what it looks like to manage Donald Trump, which is what we see in Andrew Cuomo. We need someone who's actually willing to fight Donald Trump. And we've seen examples of that right here in New York with Kathy Hochul. We've seen examples of that in California. It's time to have that.
The problem is that he can't really fight Trump on the big stage that actually matters. He can kind of fight him with regards to New York City, but maybe not even there. Well, let's just put it that way.
That in City Hall.
You have not yet received an endorsement from Hakeem Jeffries, who, of course, is the highest-ranking member of Congress and a member of the New York delegation. I know you've met 4 times. Kathy Hochul has not officially endorsed yet, if I'm not mistaken. You would have to work with both those individuals quite closely. Are you confident that should you win, those are going to be solid relationships?
Absolutely. And so many of the conversations we've had have been about the importance of partnership, because New Yorkers have grown tired at the...
Jeffrey as well is... He's a perfect lib, and Zohran's going to have issues when he has to compromise eventually with these people. But granted, it's still better than Adams or Cuomo.
The ways in which Albany and City Hall were at war when Andrew Cuomo was leading the state. They want leaders who understand that they have the same constituents in New York City and they have to serve those constituents. And one thing I've appreciated through all of these conversations is the question of how do we deliver affordability to the residents of the most expensive city in the United States of America?
One of the people who was in that sort of battle, standoff with Andrew Cuomo when he was governor, as mayor, was Bill de Blasio. We covered that. I watched it as a New Yorker. Today, Bill de Blasio endorsed you for mayor. So that's someone who's had some experience on both sides of that. Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate for mayor in New York. Great to have you. Thanks a lot.
Sir. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Go follow me on Twitch. My name is Phantom Sickle on Twitch. Go follow me there. I stream quite regularly, and I'm planning to do more of like political commentary here on YouTube. Now, granted, there is deeper analysis to be done about U.S. foreign policy that I don't have time to get into now, but it is something I'm looking to get into and maybe help explain to people who don't quite understand it and the history of it. Right? Thank you all for watching. Bye.